One of my new favorites, very nerdy things that I've been talking to my clients a lot about is this concept called the ladder of inference, right?
Yeah.
It's in lots of books. It was developed by a Harvard professor and researcher psychologist. And you can go back, you can Google it. It's all over the place. So if you want to learn more about it, but what does the ladder of inference say? Ultimately, what it says is that every last one of us is walking around in a bubble of self-generated beliefs that, number one, go largely untested. Number two, we believe are data and objectively true. And number three, we think are incredibly obvious to ourselves and others. And they're all made up, and we're bouncing against each other in our own made up worlds because of the way we perceive data, the way our biases play into our beliefs, and how the way our beliefs then drive our actions, which creates self fulfilling circles. And so it's such a powerful frame to know, like, so that person that we think is may see me through their biases of race, that person may not even know they're doing it. They may know they're doing it, but they may not know that they're doing it. Here's the very cool thing is I know that I might be able to circumvent that with like ability or by knowing the right people or by some other strategy so that one person in their bubble does not have to completely hold me back.
What you're saying is that the holding on to things we believe, like Stevie Wonder's song Superstition, that
Mhm.
we don't really understand, limits us from actually stacking our minds and hearts and capabilities to co-create things greater than what we would do personally.
Yes.
Imagine if we could trust each other enough. Have you ever seen people not even let you finish the sentence because they're so ready to come back with their bubble?
Hmm.
With a yeah, but too. Yeah, like dismissing your bubble and going right into theirs. Imagine if we could actually come together and say that our lives depended on us loving each other enough to really listen.
Mm.
And they would arrest us and most of our corporate clients if we came in deliberately flashing a slideshow about love with accountability and productivity. And I was thinking pride would keep us from sharing our bubble or daring to let somebody influence our bubble.
Yes. What you're talking about is vulnerability.
Yeah.
And vulnerability is so hard, and it is the key to all interpersonal dynamics. There's an amazing course started at Stanford Business School, and I took it when I was in graduate school. It's called Interpersonal Dynamics, and 50 years worth of students have lovingly called it touchy feely. Can you imagine a bunch of business students talking about feelings?
That's right. That's right. Transformative game for them. Yeah.
So it started at Stanford. I helped teach it at Chicago Booth, and it's still going on in Booth. And I'm involved with a nonprofit now that is working specifically in the nonprofit is called Leaders in Tech, trying to create a more humane environment in the tech community based on these same learnings.
Tell
And
us what you're learning about that. What makes the difference? What's the secret sauce? What's the outcomes that you're noticing?
okay, so I'm no longer teaching it at any of the business schools, but teaching it in this nonprofit. So number one, the thing that is so critical to your point around having the courage to talk about vulnerability, when we get these right now, these tech executives into a room and they're talking about vulnerability, the day one when you do it feels ridiculous. This is not anything that we teach in business in the Western world and any of those things. By day four of deep vulnerability, they are deeply bonded. They feel seen in ways they've never felt before. And they go off. And then we get all these reports on like this thing saved my marriage. I just made more business deals because the process of teaching how to selectively people see how I'm feeling, who I am, what I want, how do I communicate not just to your words, but communicate to who you are.
Right.
What that does to people is transformative to relationships, and relationships are what drive great business deals and drive movement outcomes, right? But we are actually not connecting with each other anymore, and
Mm.
connecting it feels unsafe, right? It feels vulnerable, and so everyone is again in their bubbles, and then everybody's bubble has a persona on top of it, and
Right.
we're just constantly trying to influence with persona, not recognizing that there's another level of influence that comes with the risk of vulnerability. Now, I want to be real clear that vulnerability is not just walking around naked, saying whatever comes off the top of your head. That's how you get chased out of town.
Right.
It's
Okay.
selective vulnerability, but also recognizing that there's a human inside. And that, like, that gets to your point about how, like, we then begin to share our bubbles.
Sounds like you were able to also give an overarching intent that we're going to deliberately spend multi-days together in community. And
Mhm.
for very busy people, you didn't get pushback and they didn't show up. You got real leaders showing up to get better over multi-day experiences that are intentional about humanity first, community first, relationships first.
Mhm.
That's a paradigm challenge.
It is. I mean, what I think what's interesting when you first started, like, so the circle that knows about the fact that this was started at Stanford Business School and it comes with all the prestige of the institution, and then there's so many alumni of that particular class that can speak to the benefits of it. And so it's got a little bit of kind of built authority in certain communities.
Yeah,
But the initial pitch is really hard. Like, hey, come get locked in a room for 4 days with a bunch of strangers and talk about your feelings and probably cry. Like
right.
that, that's not necessarily anything. But what people are hearing is the results,
Yep,
but
the testimony.
the testimonies. They walk in like you should. Oh my God, you should see them. They come in like eyes wide open, scared to death. They're like, "What have I signed up for?"
We'd say living leadership is transformative. What do you
Mhm,
think was the secret sauce of all of that?
mhm.
What do you think? Is the almost like oxygen to pain points in a wound, the candor and the truth telling, the courage to tell your truth is the secret sauce, or you think something else?
I think fundamentally, what makes this work and makes some of the best leaders, communicators work is that everyone has a deep need to be seen.
Yeah. Hmm.
And you create a space that allows people to be seen past their titles, past their roles, and that's internal and personal roles, past anything that we've layered on top of us.
Right.
And to just say, like, I may have not had the exact experience you have, but I know what it feels like to be in love, afraid, insecure,
Right.
happy. I know that, and and it may be something that I never get to speak to. I feel that. And when I see that in you, that brings a connection. And we don't have those conversations with almost anyone in our lives that aren't very intimate. And
Yep.
even the people that we're intimate with, oftentimes we may be feeling like we have to protect them from some of the things that the hurts and the fears. And so just to be seen and all the things that you think someone might judge you for. Like, I'm going to tell you that I'm nervous about this upcoming quarter, and you're not going to think I'm a bad executive.
Right.
Where do you get that?
That's what we're saying. Be able to share
Mhm.
from the bubbles,
From the
but
levels.
get attacked
Mhm.
for the sharing. That's the extra layer that
That
ends up creating more calcification and more protective energy and hesitation. So you're bringing up a very good point about toxicity coming from
yes.
judgment, not so much from the sharing.
So if you think about the civil rights movement, like towards the end, when you start seeing the coalitions, right? So the Dr. King and the Poor People's Movement, and you started seeing demographics
Right,
who were they were getting past their bubbles. That they were saying, your blues aren't like mine, but what I see in you, like I from a white family knows how hard it is to get ahead in the
right,
same way that a black family may feel.
right.
Right? Like to feel like the system continues to compound itself on top of me, right? When
Yeah,
you see that in a person, then all of a sudden there's a connection again, but it takes vulnerability to get to that point, right? Because I gotta say and think and make sure you're not gonna judge me or it's not gonna be used against me. But once we can get to that conversation, it opens up selective trust, problem solving, like collaboration, co-creation, all those things are now available. But you can't do that when we're both kind of on, at a distance, kind of side eyeing each other. And so that's what the power is when we can get past our bubbles.
and that harsh lens that people put on you to attack you is the lens of their own perfectionism now
Mhm.
projected onto you. So they're going to find some lint on your eyebrow or something to make sure that you don't get a perfect grade. And it just the system sort of reinforces itself to make sure we stay fractured and separate and not as powerful as we could be. I think you've outlined really a template
Mhm.
for us coming together again and claiming a connection that may be there has just been so covered up by our lack of proximity and true authentic relationships, or by people that want to divide and conquer. In South Africa, they have a concept called Ubuntu.
Mm.
It says, I am because we are.